Yes, the film was about making movies, but it's really about just real people. It's not about superheroes. It's about the people who play them. It's about the people who make those films. Colt is a blue-collar hero who's just, in a lot of ways, a regular guy who, having a hard time in his life. He's lost his girlfriend and his job, and he's lost confidence. He's just trying to make ends meet and figure out how to be a good person and who he is, and just dealing with things that we all deal with. And Jodie's the same, and really all the characters in the film. They're just very hardworking people who are doing their best and feel lucky to do something that they love. It was so tense because it was so dangerous, and even though there's so much thought goes into it, the level of preparation, the level of repetition, and the way that they sort of do it in stages, and it's really everything you could do to make sure that the performer is safe. Every measure you could take is done. But at the end of the day, it's still dangerous what they're doing. Everything has to go right. The weather has to be right, the density of the sand, the list goes on. And so it's very tense. And I just remember vividly we were all on set when he finally was going to do the stunt. It's almost like in the film when it moves in slow motion, it felt like that in real time. It just felt like you're counting every roll, but you're also worried about Logan. And in the film, a lot is made of the thumbs up, but it's such a relief when you finally see it. And when he finally gave the thumbs up and we understood that he was okay and that he'd broken this record, it really was like a day I'll never forget. David's just such an exciting person to be around and an incredible partner. And even from the very beginning, I mean, he went and stayed in a hotel next to my house before we started shooting, and we just went through the script scene by scene every day and just rewrote it to be personal to us so that it would be an amalgamation of our experiences. He's so hands-on, he's so not afraid of anything, and I think, it's sort of his experience as a stuntman in a way, the fearlessness that he has in that work, he has as a filmmaker. This is a difficult needle to thread because it's an action movie, it's a comedy, it's a mystery, it's a meta film about making movies. It's a lot of plates to spin, and he just wasn't afraid of that at all. And I think we all just felt inspired by that and wanted to sort of mirror that and sort of follow him wherever he wanted to go. It's always the dream to work with a filmmaker who feels like they're the only person who could make that movie, but this was really one of those cases. I really can't imagine anyone but David making this film. I was happy to be the first actor to say I did none of my own stunts in this film. It is about the stunt performers, and I was excited to highlight their work and let them do what they do best. But it was important that I do some of the stunts just, first of all, for me to understand what, on some small level, what they deal with every day, but also just for authenticity in the film. So I have a fear of heights, and I knew this was coming because it is called The Fall Guy, and we knew that there was going to be a fall. But the whole opening sequence all takes place in a oneer, and it leads up to them dropping me 12 stories off of a building. So that was one that there was no real way around. Another one that we did was I got dragged across the Sydney Harbor Bridge, which again was important to sort of have me do it because this character is risking his life and everything he has to sort of get to this karaoke date with Jodie. And it was just important that I be there doing it. And it was really geniusly scheduled because they did it at 6 a.m. So I was so tired when we did it that I sort of showed up. They dragged me across the bridge. I went home and went to sleep and thought, that was a very strange dream I just had.
The story in a nutshell is that you have our hero of this stuntman, played by Ryan Gosling. His name's Colt Seavers. He's just getting over an almost career-ending accident that he had on a film set, and maybe the last thing he wants is to be pulled back onto another movie set to reinvigorate his career as a stuntman. But the appeal of it is that his former love, Jodie, is the director of this movie. And so he really goes with the desire to win her back, but ultimately becomes an unwilling bounty hunter as he's pulled into a conspiracy that could ultimately napalm Jodie's entire movie. And so he just gets tangled in a web while trying to win her back and not destroy her life. I mean, she's really warm and inviting, but she's eccentric and she's as messy as the rest of us, and real and grounded. And she's basically directing her directorial debut, which is this ridiculous, extravagant sci-fi western called Metal Storm. And she's kind of in way over her head. She has huge talent, but she's under an exorbitant amount of pressure to deliver on this movie, and sort of hanging on by a thread. So the last thing she needs is this ex-boyfriend showing up to unravel everything that she's built and turn her whole world upside down. But ultimately, their feelings for each other and the chemistry that they have are going to override any desire to try and keep things profesh. I truly don't know anyone who can be as captivating and witty and funny and smart and quick-witted and yet captures the physicality of that role. He's so alive, he's so grounded and so loose, and he just becomes a hero, but the most sort of unwilling hero, and it's what makes him all the more lovable because he's so vulnerable and he's such a mess, and yet, you know, this expert, brilliant stuntman. And I think all of Ryan's exquisite qualities got to kind of blend together into one perfect role for him. Hannah Waddingham plays our producer, Gail. She's a producer who will stop at nothing to get the movie made. She's ruthless, somewhat remorseless. She's super clever, Machiavellian, and is sort of puppeteering this whole shenanigan. Hannah just played it with such kind of gleeful relish, and it was just wonderful watching her blow the doors off the place as this rather awful producer. I mean, what I love about Dave Leitch's movies is they have a completely unique tone, and that tone captures everything from the absurd to the grounded. They are stunningly stylistic to look at. He knows exactly how to move that camera around in order to capture something emotional and something rare. They're kinetic and sort of visceral, and he's just the best guy in the world. He's just takes all of it in the most humble, human way, and he's completely open-minded, I think, to actors bringing their thoughts. He's an amazing collaborator, probably the most collaborative person I've ever worked with. The best idea wins. And I think it's what gives his movies this grounded reality amidst something so spectacular. I think he's really unusual. I think he's captured this vibe and this look and this spirit that's very unique to him.
The Fall Guy movie was incredible. So it was really fun. You know, we shot it in Sydney, Australia. We got to do things like shut down the Sydney Bridge. That never happens. And I think it's a testament to really the directing and the shepherding and stewarding of David Leitch in this movie. So he has a really great penchant for essentially keeping the heart and soul alive, even though the movie is driven by so much action and physical storytelling. So there's still a deep heart, there's still a deep soul, characters that don't take themselves too seriously, but are still attached to really high stakes. And that makes the movie just really fun. It doesn't let go of you from the second that you start watching. The opening scene starts you off on this ride that you don't get off of until ending credits. So I play Dan Tucker, who is the stunt coordinator in a movie that they're making called Metal Storm. And he's a very close friend of Colt, played by Ryan Gosling, and he's, you know, also a very close friend of the director, played by Emily Blunt. So he's often caught being a little bit of the matchmaker, the guy that's kind of sewing together the broken bits of Colt, trying to get him back to where he was before this cataclysmic injury that took him out. So he's constantly working on Colt. He's always trying to keep everything going, which this movie and the set is quite chaotic. You know, you really need to pull all the pieces together. So he ends up becoming a lot of the heart and soul of the film that we can trust. So when everything gets really crazy, we come back to the relationship with Dan to bring it back down and make it real again. I saw him just constantly be looking for new ways to be playful in circumstances that are super demanding. He's doing some of those stunts as well. He's in most of the scenes, so he's on set every single day. He's coming in super early. As much as it is a stress on the character, he's playing the character, so it's a stress on him as well. And he did it really gracefully. I would say he really brought a level of resilience to a role that's quite demanding physically. Elasticity to a character that's kind of going in a lot of directions. You know, he's sad, he's melancholic, he's happy and getting another chance at love and life and excitement. He's being betrayed, he's fearful, he is all these different things. So Ryan has to have a lot of elasticity in the role, and he does that quite seamlessly, you know, just easy while glowing. I think one day we were on set and I was like, "You're really good looking, man." And he just was like, "Oh, get out of here, shut up, thank you." And I was like, "Yeah, you're doing the thing, and it's really great to see."
So Tom Ryder, I guess, is a character that is sort of a combination, a concoction or a cocktail, if you will, of just so many different characters I've, you know, either heard about or met in the past, or, you know, everyone has their story of a nightmarish actor or a moment with an actor or something crazy in the tabloids of an actor doing something absolutely heinous. Ultimately, at his core, he's someone who is, you know, believes in his own hype, but is also like, he is very much in denial of his own behavior. You know, he's always someone who's gonna hand it off to someone else, blame someone else. Well, that's because of, you know, that's because they did this and that, that was nothing to do with me. Like, he's a selfish sort of narcissist. There's a definite spontaneity in the way I feel David likes to direct and work. It's actually remarkable how he can kind of maintain calm under all that kind of pressure. He's quite brilliant at being able to sort of mold these characters as we go along. I mean, I've enjoyed every minute with Ryan. I think, you know, he's, I admire him a lot as an actor. I think, you know, he's an incredible actor, and I think also, you know, I think we both understand that we're here to really have fun and kind of push that. It's just joyous to be able to throw other things out there, and then when you've got great actors around you, like Emily, like Ryan, they take those little bits of bait and they just run with it, and then when you have that, you can really explore these characters more and really push their sort of how they see the world. Yeah, I think this is a real beautiful homage to stunt filmmakers, you know, because there's nothing quite like watching something where your heart is pounding at your chest because you know there's someone that has just risked their life or an incredibly horrible injury. There's something that instantly happens to your being, your empathetic side, where you're just like, you instantly feel emotion, and when they land that thing and they triumph, you're so ecstatic with such joy. It's like, it's so instant. That level of performance is something I've never kind of really witnessed or seen before. To have that in this movie is sort of what makes this movie stand out and be something that is unique and special.
I just see that she's someone that's trying to get things done, but her take on how to get things done is a little bit a bit wonky. For me personally, when somebody has become so completely channeled into one thing, it's like everything else around it fudges, and all she can see is that and how she's going to achieve that. So I say fair play to her. Physically, there's nothing that's an accident on her at all. And of course, the fabulous glasses that Gail had really informed me who she is. There's an element for me with all the hair and the glasses and all the jewellery. It's like armour. It's like she's slightly hiding away, because if Colt particularly looks in too far, then the wheels are going to come off. It was really lovely for Emily and I to dig into the kind of history that they would have had, how Gail has brought Jodie up through the ranks, but then is wholly using her as bait, squarely putting her in front of Colt's eyes to get him back on board. So, people say that Gail is twisted and self-serving, but like I say, I think that's another element of her just getting the job done. He is an absolute self-indulgent, self-obsessed arsehole, but great on camera. And Aaron plays him with such a twinkle in his eye, and I love the way that a lot of the time he will finish a take as Ryder and just be appalled by his own existence. It's really funny to watch. So when you have the collision of Tom Ryder and Gail Meyer and Aaron Taylor-Johnson and me, that mixture is like two 12-year-olds being let loose. I think we've been feeding off each other really nicely. They're naughty. They're naughty. Who doesn't want to play a naughty character?
It's not a tough guy film. I think that's such a testament to not only Ryan Gosling, but Emily Blunt as well. There's so much heart to this one, and there's a love story, and it's quite silly because Ryan's really silly. He's really funny. So a lot of that humor comes through, and I think the entire cast actually just has a huge heart, and so this action film feels like it has a lot of sort of sweetness to it. Yeah. Alma is my love letter to every PA I've ever worked with, every assistant I've ever witnessed. I feel like I've gained even more inspiration. Nobody knows this, but I've been spying on all the assistants and PAs on this set, and we have this new bit for Alma where she's always carrying like 10 million things, and it's simply just because I look around me and I'm seeing everyone sweating, running in their cargo shorts. Alma's a little bit more, fashion cinema, but I'm seeing everybody work so hard and deal with all sorts of shenanigans and have to put up with the craziest scenarios. So yes, Alma is my love letter to assistants and PAs specifically worldwide. And I remember filming the first day when Alma and Colt meet. There was a lot of giggling. I'm sure everybody giggles because he's so funny. He's so funny. He's so silly. We had so much fun. And lots of improvisation. And I had heard lore that Ryan really likes to improvise, and it is true. But he really is an incredible actor, an incredible collaborator. That's the thing that I think I've been most happy to witness in working alongside him, is he really wants to make every scene that much more specific, that much better, and it really kind of makes the story that much more dimensional, and it truly is such a testament to his collaborative spirit. I think we're overdue for an awesome love story within an action film. I feel like that's what makes this movie extra special, is that you have that epicness of these huge fights and flips and action sequences, but the core story has so much heart and is really about two people finding each other again, and I think people are gonna really find comfort and delight in that.
The term fall guy originally means, in the stunt world, is the guy that takes the hits. It's the guy that steps in and takes the fall, the guy that falls off the horse, the guy that falls off the bike, the guy that falls down the stairs. And so it was a term that coined early on in film as the stunt person, the fall guy. But I think we took it to another level in The Fall Guy, the film, where it became more of a metaphor, or maybe that's a bad term, but we use the term in a lot of different ways. This is a fall guy, stunt man, who is also taking the fall for something he didn't do, and someone who's fallen in love so deeply that he's willing to risk everything to get it back. Fall Guy has a lot of meanings in our Fall Guy, and it just took it to the next level. With Ryan and Emily, you have two of the greatest actors of our time. And it's humbling to have them on set. But their chemistry is really palpable, especially as these characters. I mean, they really come to set embodied, have done the homework of what these people are feeling. And from the moment I roll cameras, that energy, pops through the lens and we feel it, and everybody on set feels it. And so it's just a testament to how good they are at their craft. And you work with different actors who have different techniques, and some are more method and some are more technical. And I would say, I don't want to sit and analyze how they get to where they are. They're just very natural and professional. And just when the camera switches on, there's a laser focus to the person in front of them, and they are embodying these characters and bringing them to life. I really did need him to be, for the sake of the story, to be a caricature, to someone that we could really sort of focus our ire on for this film, because Colt's the hero, and we needed a heel. And Aaron came in and hit it out of the park. Tom Ryder's an egomaniac, he's a narcissist, he's afraid of his own shadow. He is full of bravado, but yet completely incapable of doing anything that involves courage. He's the antithesis of Aaron Taylor Johnson, which is why he did such an incredible role bringing him to life. All the pressures that you feel as a stunt coordinator, Winston brought to life. But more importantly, he brought the camaraderie to life that you have with your fellow stunt performers and the instant brotherhood there is when you reunite. And I think that scene with him and Ryan when he first arrives in Australia sort of sets the table for these guys. And they may have not seen each other in 5 years, but they are right back in there, quoting movies, asking about personal stuff, and then getting down to business and delivering crazy action. That's just the reality of it. And he did the work and brought it to life. So the cannon roll is a classic stunt that's been around since obviously the beginning of cars and films. And really what happens is the special effects department works with stunts, and they actually put a cannon in the bottom of the car. Now it's usually the use of hydraulics and air pressure. It used to be black powder and a log. And you place it in a position of the car, and as the car's going at speed and you hit the charge, it flips the car and the car rolls. It was important for us to do some sort of, again, we were trying to do classic stunts, and so the car roll became one of the things that we had to include in this film. And while we were at it, we're like, well, we're making a movie that's an homage to stunt performers. Why don't we make sure that we're doing the best and biggest versions of those, and maybe we can break some records. And so that was the goal when we set out, like, how do we make a statement on practical stunts and maybe set some records. And with the cannon roll, that's what we did. The Fall Guy, to me, is really a love letter to stunt performers and to the blue-collar artisans that make movies. The production designers, the cinematographers, the grips, the electrics, the PAs, the ADs, everybody who gives their heart and soul to this business and spends hours on set trying to bring this magic of storytelling to the screen. As a stunt performer for years, it's really dear to my heart to bring the Fall Guy to life, because there's a lot of real-life anecdotes from my journey as a stunt performer and a below-the-line crew in there.
It is romantic, it is adorable, it is filled with action stunts that we actually achieved, like, without CG. Like, it's really propulsive and entertaining and very David Leitchian in the sense that it's like a bit atonal in all the best ways, where it's fun one moment, exhilarating the next, and you're crying at some point too. David, having spent 20 years as a stuntman, stunt coordinator, second unit director, having built a company called 8711 that grew stuntmen into stunt coordinators and second unit directors. It was his gateway into this film business to begin with, stunts. And I think that authenticity that he could give to this story, to the character, to the world in all of his stories of set life from those many 20 years made it sort of undeniable that it had to be a story that we did. He has this way of being an everyman. And, I think people don't understand that stunt men are people who are always behind the scenes. And I think that's kind of really relatable. Like, I think a lot of people work really hard in their jobs and feel unseen in what they do. And not every actor can sort of chameleon into that feeling. And that's one of the reasons why Ryan as Colt is really as special as it is.
It seems obvious now that the movie would have gone in the direction that it did ultimately, but at the time we had conceived it as being more dramatic and almost rocky as a reference. And I know that sounds weird to be using a sports movie as the reference, but as far as a movie that is about a working class hero who has been put upon and is at a low point in his life before he gets dragged into the story, and then ultimately who's made to be the fall guy. I mean, I look back and I look at David's movies, have such comedy and levity and humor, and they're so entertaining. But Ryan also brought a lot of that to the character, and it really was that collaboration amongst everyone, but those two guys in particular. And I think Ryan's instincts about who that character should be had a lot to do with how the movie would evolve. And I think he was absolutely right. And I think it's incredible that we would end up in the place that we did. What was interesting about the character of Colt Seavers was that he had a unique skill set. And that skill set was that he could take a fall or take a punch and get back up. And he didn't carry a gun. He came at the action in the series, and then of course what we would bring into the movie was a skill set that is very unique to that of a stunt man or a stunt person, and really I don't think anything that we'd ever seen before.